Afternoon, everyone. I'm David Talbot, Managing Director and Head of Research here at Red Cloud Securities. We would like to extend thanks to Oberon Capital Corp, who is a platinum sponsor and sponsoring this session. Our next presenters are Jim Paterson, a CEO, and Colin Smith, VPX of ValOre Metals. Now, ValOre is exploring for PGEs in Brazil, but it's also dusted off 43 million pounds of high grade in Canada. So, gentlemen, you have 15 minutes, and then we'll have a 5-minute Q&A session at the end. So why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Dave. Hello, everybody. Dave just covered it nicely. We have a project in Brazil called Pedro Branca. It's a PGE, Palladium Platinum project. We also have the Angilak property in Nunavut Territory, Canada, 43 million pounds U3O8. So we'll be talking about both of those today. Before we get into that, just to give you an idea of our background, this company, ValOre, is part of Discovery Group. It's an alliance of publicly traded companies headquartered in Vancouver with projects all over the world. A recent success in our group is Great Bear Resources, which a few years ago had $1 million market cap and some big hopes and dreams, and was recently acquired for $1.8 billion by Kinross. So that was the quintessential reason to invest in gold stocks. And we're very proud of the achievements of the Great Bear team. Other companies in the group include zinc explorers, other royalty companies, copper explorers, gold explorers, and then ValOre. So we'll just get into ValOre's projects. Before we do that, just talk about the capital structure of the company. Roughly a 58 million Canadian market cap. We're traded on the venture exchange under the ticker symbol VO. Insiders own around 20%. And with the help of Red Cloud last year, we brought in some great resource fund investors through flow through and before that, a hard dollar financing. So we're growing our institutional shareholder base, but we've been supported by insiders and close associates and retail shareholders through all the ups and downs of the uranium market, and covered by Dave Talbot the entire way as well. Very strong board on the uranium front. Dale Walster and Jim Malone came with experience from Hathor, which is one of the big success stories of the last uranium market. Garth Kirkham, Darren Klink, very strong board members with a lot of project and M&A experience in the sector. We have Luis Azevedo as an advisor. He's a geologist and lawyer from Rio. And John Robbins is an advisor to the board. John's the principal of Discovery Group, the rainmaker of the group. And then you have on the call Jim Paterson and Colin Smith, VP Exploration. Colin manages an amazing team of explorers and discoverers in Brazil, and we'll talk to you about them. And then he's just right now pulling his hair out with stuff flying all over Canada, northern Canada, to get the logistics nailed down for exploration program on our Angilak property in northern Canada as well. And then finally, just, we're an exploration group. We're an exploration company, but we've done some deals as well. We have M&A experience on the right-hand side. You can see some of the deals we've been involved with: Northern Empire, Kaminak, Corsa, and Hathor, which I talked to you about before. This gives you an overview of where our companies are in the world. We'll be talking about the Angilak uranium property, which is in northern Canada. Large land package. The predecessor to this company was called Kivalliq Energy. We had a name change, rollback and rights offering a few years ago. That company spent over $55 million, and we've got $11 million to be deployed on the Angilak property this year, which we'll talk about. And then, but first, we'll talk about the Pedro Branca project in northeastern Brazil. It's a palladium platinum project. We have an inferred resource that was disclosed in 2019 when we acquired the property. Since then, we spent over $4 million and drilled both in 2020 and 2021. And we're expecting a resource estimate to come out later this month. So we'll kind of talk about what we've done on the project there. Just to give you an idea where the Pedro Branca PGE project is in the world and within Brazil, northeastern corner, you can see the blue in the middle of this series of images here, the little star. That's where the project is located. It's in Ceará State. If you're visiting the property, you'd land here in Fortaleza in this beautiful airport. There's skyscrapers on the beach, about 3 million people, a port there that's quite highly commercial. And you drive into our property on one of two highways. You've got choices into the interior of the country. We've got a large land position near to this little town called Capital Moore, has about 1,000 people, and it's very agricultural in that area. The zones and the deposits lay outside the town, but the town is very supportive of all of our efforts, and that's where we base our operations. It's not rainforest, it's very dry, and that gives you an example of what it's like in the summer, and that's kind of the spring and the winter. So it does rain, but it is not rainforest, and I'll let Colin take it from here.
Thank you, Jim. So yeah, I mean, what you're looking at on the right-hand map there, that's the current land position at Pedro Branca. So you can see it's sort of strategically staked along that shaded green unit, which is the Troya unit. That's the host PGE belt. It's a mafic to ultramafic Archean package of rock. And that's where we're exploring. That's where we're staked around. The deposit areas which comprise the existing 2019 resource are denoted by the large red stars. And since that resource was calculated, we've drilled over 16,000 meters of mostly core drilling. About 2/3 of that was focused on expanding upon that resource. And we see the most upside in the Trapia and Santo Amaro deposit areas, which are the southernmost, Trapia and northernmost being Santo Amaro. And what you'll see in the next slide is one of the compelling features of the nature of the mineralization and the deposit you're looking at here. This is about 400,000 ounces of the 2019 million ounce resource. It's one of the three that's located within about a 5-kilometer radius of each other. And this is the Esparro deposit. It's located at surface. So the mineralization is dipping sympathetic to the topography, very, very shallow dip. And you can see that we actually drilled this last year for resource continuity and metallurgical drill sample material. And just scan your eyes across the intervals. These things are all coming from surface. The standout there, 77 meters of just shy of 3 grams from surface, 2 PGE plus gold. To give background into that, it's a straight summation of palladium grams per ton plus platinum grams per ton plus gold. And it's about a 2-to-1 palladium to platinum ratio. So this is the nature of the mineralization from a development open pit, development scenario. It's obviously very compelling. You're getting underground style intervals at surface. This shows a little bit of the resource upside. We're working on a recalculation of the inferred resource as we speak, and that's due to come out this month to market. And what you're seeing on these maps are all the same scale. The two on the right look at the Trapia resource area and the one on the left, Santo Amaro. What you're seeing within the black dash region, those are the pre-ValOre drill holes, which comprise the 2019 resource, the million ounce resource. Everything outside of those areas are holes that we've drilled and holes that we've hit on. And each drill collar is denoted by gram meter. So you can see the theme legend on the left there. For those of you who don't know, a gram meter is where you multiply the grams per ton times the meter interval. So 5 grams per ton over 5 meters is a 25 gram meter hole. So in simplicity, you're looking at, the bigger the red dot and the redder the dot, the better the hole. And you can see that outside of the existing resource, there's a lot of good looking holes. These will all be considered in the ongoing estimate due out this month. Okay, so we're, I beg your pardon? Oh, I heard a dog. We're gonna put on our toques and parkas and zip 6,000 kilometers or so north to the Angilak uranium project in Nunavut. This is a district scale play. As you can see, the land position is over 66,000 hectares in size. It's staked around the margin of the Angilak Basin, which is a sub-basin of the Athabasca. You can see Jim encompassing it there. It hosts the LAC 50 trend resource, which is the highest grade resource in the world outside of the Athabasca Basin. And it's denoted by those 2 large red stars there. So we've drilled this significantly. Historically, the company has spent over 55 million in the project. Previous to Kivalliq, there was another 30 million spent by previous operators. A bulk of that was focused on LAC 50s. You'll see in the next slide, about 60,000 meters of drilling in LAC 50 comprises that existing resource, and that's 60 of the 90,000 drilled on the project. So the The other thing that's very compelling about this project, we're staked around the margin of the basin. So we're able to target these uranium-rich structures from surface. And you can see on the top right and the bottom right there, that's a block model of the latest iteration of the resource, which was from 2013. And these things come to surface, and we've drilled them down to a depth of about 400 meters vertical. They're still open at depth, but we have the luxury of being able to chase these things along strike at surface. And so what you see again in the top left inset map, the two large stars denoting the resource area. All the other stars you're seeing there, those are existing targets, and there's several more actually that are not pictured there. But those are targets in which we have drilled. We have hit the same structure, same geology, same mineralization style as LAC 50. They just lack the drill density at current to be incorporated into a resource. So certainly what we're going to be looking to do this year is not only expand upon the LAC 50 resource, but really evolve some of these pre-resource targets into legitimate resource candidates. So the paneled image that you're seeing on the top right just gives you a little synopsis into our targeting methodology at Angilak, which is very well constrained, and probably saw on the previous slide, 200% resource growth in 3 years of drilling. So there's a lot of upside potential yet to be discovered. The top panel there you're seeing is ground geophysics. So VLFEM, these structures that host the uranium, they light up like these magenta linear conductors in the VLF. And to help further hone in on the best parts of those structures, you can see the scale is 12 kilometers. So these are big regional structures. You run some geochem lines. So you run orthogonal soil lines across these conductors, and that's what you're seeing in the middle panel there. So you're able to really hone in on which are the best and most mineralized parts of these structures. And then it's just a function of stepping down dip and drilling. And so the bottom image shows in purple the 3D block of the existing 2013 resource at LAC 50. The red shapes there, those are, again, as I said before, targets which drilled. They're parallel, sub-parallel structures to LAC 50. We've hit resource style mineralization. They just lack the drill density at current to be incorporated in the resource. So certainly those would be high priority targets for us this year.
Sorry, the barking dog has stopped. I just wanted to, and then just highlight, I think Colin, you may have mentioned, but just to reiterate, so the bulk of the drilling delineated these red stars right here, which are also represented by these purple areas. And then Colin also talked about these areas like the pulse, spark, blaze that are represented by these little red stars. But the best way to describe it is all of these little red stars have been drilled by ValOre, and they hit mineralization that looked similar or identical to the areas within the resource. And it extended all the way across the property as well. So real upside here in this year's season, and we're well funded with Red Cloud's help. We raised over 11 million bucks, so we'll have a pretty significant program, and we haven't been on the property since 2016, so we're really excited to get back onto it. I'm just going to go right here in terms of catalysts. It's actually a super big month for us. We'll have, by the end of this month, as Colin was saying, the inferred resource at Pedro Branca will have the revision or the upgrade ready to disclose. So that's 2 years of drilling on top of the 1 million ounces that we initially disclosed when we acquired the property. And then the exploration program on Angilak will start late March and April, where we have a big war chest to do RC drilling and diamond drilling in the summer. Big geophysical programs, big geochem. Last thing before we go on, I know that people will ask, Dave, there has been discussion about spinning or separating these assets between the uranium project and the Pedro Branca project. I guarantee you one of the questions was, when are you going to do that? And yeah, maybe 5 or 6 of them. So the answer is, after the Pedro Branca inferred resource comes out, we'll be prepared to generally state what we're up to in terms of the strategic ideas that we have to separate the palladium platinum company project from the uranium project to form 2 entities. We'll give an idea of timing, and we'll be looking to maximize value for both of those. So there's several ideas that we have. So we'll have the right players supporting us from a service provider, banking perspective, The board will be there, totally supportive, and everything will be disclosed. But we're going to wait until the good news comes out at the end of March here to kind of highlight the value of this project, the Pedro Branca project, and also clearly talk about the pure play uranium project, which is held by ValOre.
Great. Okay, well, thank you, Jim. You've already taken care of a couple of the questions as far as the timing of the spin out. So how do you guys decide what resources should be put forth on each of the projects right now? You know, will the money this year being spent in Canada be at the expense of Brazil?
Well, you know, that's kind of, it's pretty clear what money has to be spent in Canada because they were flow through. So guaranteed there's an $11 million program on Angilak. As far as the Pedro Branca project goes, it's really cost effective to work down there. It's a very low burn until you kind of, you know, really ramp up drilling operations. So as it stands right now, we're not actually drilling, but we are fully engaged. The team is working with the Trado, soil sampling, rock sampling, and mapping. So we'll still have news coming in from the field, but we're not going to get back on until the resource comes out, and we'll determine, you know, if the market's super excited about it, we could raise some money, and if not, we'll kind of have a slower burn. But I think we'll be raising money for the project, and it'll really be dependent upon the size of the resource and areas that we think we can grow. And then, of course, all the work that they're doing right now is really setting the stage for future drilling, because the Trado is identifying the drill targets, you know, from discovery. And we obviously know the type of rock unit we're dealing with when we use these auger drills, but we can also sample it to we know if it's mineralized or not. So we really are setting the stage for target advancement and resource expansion at the end of this, you know, the balance of this year.
Yeah, and some of that, you know, that exploration methodology in Brazil that we've used effectively, you know, in the 2019 resource, there's 5 deposit areas. There's probably going to be more than that in this current resource estimate, and that's because of this methodology that's ongoing. So there's a number of new targets that we're working as we speak, and those are taking the exact same methodology in use, and so you know, keeping the target pipeline moving, so to speak.
Okay, so after we see the resource, you will make a decision whether or not to drill. And I imagine if you do decide to go back drilling, you're going to do the same thing, right? Resource delineation, zone expansion, new discoveries.
100%. You know, access is really good down there. The geophysics, the worldview, the soil sampling, the rock sampling have really helped us identify the targets. Of course, this time we had the benefit of the previous operators drilling. And so we had a number of targets that were already drilled. They just didn't have the density. So we went in and drilled those. But there's still some targets that we've actually drilled that need more drilling, and zones that are absolutely still open. So we'll be expanding those. And we're looking to expand those.
One of the questions touched upon the new ground we picked up at Pedro Branca, and that's what we're working right now. So we've got a big geochem program going at one of the blocks, and then the Trado, both Trados are at work at the other Northeast regional trend there. So certainly we are actively working that ground.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned the $11 million budget that you're going to spend at Angilak. How far is that going to stretch as far as getting drills on the ground? And again, are you looking at resource delineation, zone expansion, new discoveries in that neck of the woods as well?
Well, we have an RC rig that'll be showing up. So we'll be using or utilizing the RC rig more for discovery type drilling. And that is geared for late March and April, depending upon how the community visits go in terms of the timing. We actually still have 3 rigs up there that have remained since we last drilled with 3 rigs. So it's not like we have to get rigs up there. And we're obviously, you know, mobbing everything we need to utilize those rigs in now. So it's just more of a matter of what we think the best target is, or targets are. So it is a mix of some expansion, but a lot of these things, you know, drilled over almost 1 kilometer in strike with many drill holes that hit, they just need more density, and actually now have the benefit of the geochem program, which we didn't have in a lot of these targets. We were not using geochem, we were just using geophysics. we drilled them, we hit, and then we ran these enzyme leach lines over them. So we actually, in many cases, we hit, but we don't think we hit the best part of the conductor or the structure based upon the enzyme leach data that came back. So we've got some smoking targets that are on the same target and generally, on the same structure. And generally these structures are very well behaved. And then within them, you have varying degrees of mineralization. So the geochem, the enzyme leach, really helps vector you in on the area you want to test.